Some mysteries are meant to be solved, but others remain shrouded in secrecy, lost in time, and buried in unanswered questions. From chilling disappearances to cryptic messages and eerie abandoned places, these are the cases that have left investigators and the world scratching their heads for decades. Welcome to 5 of the World, and today we're counting down the top 5 unsolved cases that still baffle the world. Let's dive in. The Tamam Shud case. It all began on the morning of December 1st, 1948, on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. A couple walking along the shore stumbled upon the body of a man slumped against the seawall. He looked peaceful, as if merely asleep, yet something was off. His clothes were oddly formal for the beach. He wore a suit, polished shoes, and a tie. His pockets were empty. There was no wallet, no ID, and bizarrely, even the labels from his clothing had been carefully removed. The authorities were left with a corpse, perfectly intact, but without a name. The medical examiner's report only deepened the mystery. The man was in peak physical condition. There were no signs of violence, no wounds, no evidence of a struggle. But inside, his body told a different story. His stomach and liver were congested with blood. His spleen was 3 times its normal size, and his organs suggested poisoning. Yet, no toxins were found in his system. The coroner was left scratching his head. The official cause of death? Unknown. A breakthrough came a few weeks later. Investigators discovered a brown suitcase at Adelaide's train station, believed to belong to the mystery man. Inside, more questions than answers. The suitcase contained neatly folded clothes, a shaving kit, and a strange screwdriver. But once again, all labels had been removed. The only clue, a sewing kit with orange thread, the same kind used to repair the man's pants. But there was something else. A scrap of paper sewn into a hidden pocket of his trousers. 2 words, printed in elegant script, Tamam Shud. Investigators soon discovered that Tamam Shud was Persian, meaning ended or finished. The phrase was from an ancient book of poetry, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Even stranger, a local man came forward with a copy of this very book, one that had been left in his car, mysteriously tossed into the back seat. The final page, where Tamam should have been, was ripped out, and in the book's margins, a series of seemingly random letters, an uncrackable code. Was this a cipher? A message for a spy? Cryptographers and intelligence agencies, including the Australian Secret Intelligence Service and the FBI, attempted to decode it, but to no avail. And then, the case took an even weirder turn. A phone number was scribbled in the book. It belonged to a woman named Jessica Thompson, a nurse who lived near Somerton Beach. When police questioned her, she seemed visibly shaken, yet denied knowing the man. But some experts believe she was lying. Jessica reportedly kept her past a secret, even from her own family. Before her death in 2007, she allegedly told her daughter she knew more than she had ever revealed. What was she hiding? In 2022, researchers conducted a major breakthrough. By extracting DNA from the mystery man's hair, forensic experts identified him as Carl Webb, an electrical engineer from Melbourne. But here's the catch: Webb had no known ties to espionage, and no clear reason to end up dead on a beach hundreds of miles from home. His story remains a puzzle with missing pieces. Even with modern science, the Tamam Shud case refuses to give up all its secrets. Was Carl Webb a spy, a fugitive, a jilted lover, or just an unlucky man who met a bizarre and tragic fate? We may never know. But one thing is certain: the mystery of Somerton Beach still lingers, haunting the minds of those who dare to unravel its secrets. What do you think happened to the Somerton man? Leave your theories in the comments below. The vanishing of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers. 1900. The Flannan Isles sit in the North Atlantic, off the coast of Scotland. A desolate, uninhabited cluster of islands where the only structure of significance is the lighthouse. It was here that three men, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, kept watch over the light, tending to its needs in the unforgiving elements. On December 26, 1900, a relief ship, the Hesperus, arrived at the lighthouse to deliver supplies and replace one of the keepers. But something was wrong. The lighthouse, which should have been shining bright, was dark. No one came to greet the crew. As the men climbed ashore, they were met with an eerie silence. Upon entering, they found the living quarters eerily untouched. Plates of food were set on the table, a chair was knocked over, and a clock had stopped, frozen in time. But the most chilling discovery was the logbook, which recorded strange events leading up to the disappearance. The last few entries in the logbook were baffling. On December 12th, Thomas Marshall wrote about severe storms the likes of which I have never seen. He noted that James Duckett, the principal keeper, was very quiet and that Donald MacArthur had been crying, an odd detail, as MacArthur was known as a tough and experienced seaman. December 13th noted that the storm continued, with all three men reportedly praying for their lives, despite the fact that they were seasoned keepers who should have been used to violent weather. Then, on December 15th, the log stated, "Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all." That was the last entry. So what happened to the three men? Official reports suggest that a massive wave may have swept them into the sea while they were securing supplies or inspecting damage. But that doesn't explain the emotional distress recorded in the log before the storm supposedly ended. Other theories are more sinister. Some suggest that one keeper may have gone mad, murdering the others before taking his own life. But with no bodies ever found, the theory remains speculative. Others whisper of supernatural forces, ghostly figures seen wandering the island, or the legend of an ancient curse placed upon the land. Over a century later, the mystery of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers remains unsolved. No trace of the men was ever found, no final message left behind to explain their fate. The lighthouse remains automated today, its beaming light illuminating the darkness, perhaps still searching for the lost souls of Duckett, Marshall, and MacArthur. Was it the sea, madness, or something far beyond human understanding? The Flannan Isles hold their secrets well, and maybe, just maybe, they always will. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was no ordinary pilot. She had already become the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, and in 1937, she set her sights on an even greater challenge, circumnavigating the globe. Accompanied by expert navigator Fred Noonan, Earhart departed from Miami, Florida, on June 1, 1937, in her twin-engine Lockheed Electra. The journey was ambitious, covering 29,000 miles with multiple stops. By June 29th, they had successfully reached New Guinea, with only 7,000 miles remaining. Their next stop, a tiny speck in the Pacific, Howland Island. It was supposed to be a routine 2,500-mile flight, but something went terribly wrong. At dawn on July 2nd, Earhart and Noonan took off from heading toward Howland Island, where the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca awaited their arrival. They were expected to make periodic radio contact, but as they neared their destination, something disturbing began to unfold. Despite desperate attempts to establish communication, neither Earhart nor Noonan ever reached Howland Island. The Itasca could hear them, but Earhart couldn't hear Itasca's responses. And then, silence. The world would never hear from her again. The disappearance sparked the largest search operation in U.S. naval history at the time. The Navy and Coast Guard scoured 250,000 square miles of ocean. Not a single trace of the plane or its passengers was found. With no wreckage, no distress signal, and no survivors, speculation ran wild. Did they crash into the ocean and sink? Were they taken prisoner? Or did they manage to survive on a remote island? Over the decades, theories have ranged from plausible to downright terrifying. Some believe Earhart and Noonan crashed into the Pacific and perished, but others suggest a far more unsettling fate. One of the most haunting theories? That Earhart and Noonan ended up on Nikumaroro, a desolate island in the Pacific. In 1940, British officials found skeletal remains, a woman's shoe, and pieces of an aircraft there. Could Earhart have been stranded, slowly succumbing to starvation and despair? Some researchers claim radio signals picked up days after her disappearance suggest she might have been alive, desperately calling for help. And then there's the theory that chills the spine, the idea that Earhart was captured by the Japanese. Some say she was taken to the island of Saipan and executed. Others claim she lived under an assumed identity after World War II. A grainy photograph taken in 1937 allegedly shows Earhart and Noonan in Japanese custody. But is it real, or just another illusion in this unsolvable mystery? Amelia Earhart was a woman ahead of her time, a trailblazer who defied the odds. But her vanishing act has immortalized her in history's darkest mysteries. Was she lost to the sea, captured, or left to die on a forsaken island? One thing is certain. Until we find definitive proof, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart will continue to haunt us. The vanishing of the MV Joy-Ida, 1955. The MV Joy-Ida was a merchant vessel that set sail from Apia, the capital of Samoa, on October 3, 1955. It was bound for Tokelau, a journey that should have taken just 2 days. On board were 25 people, 16 crew members, 9 passengers, including a government official and a doctor. The Joy-Ida had a reputation for being unsinkable. Its hull was lined with cork, making it nearly impossible to go under, even if it took on water. But something happened on that fateful voyage, something no one has been able to explain. 5 weeks later, on November 10th, a British aircraft spotted the Joy-Ida drifting over 600 miles from its intended course. The ship was heavily damaged, partially submerged, but still afloat. It had been missing for over a month. But what was most horrifying was that the crew and passengers were gone. Not a single person remained. The rescue team that boarded the vessel found eerie signs of disaster. The ship's radio was tuned to an emergency distress channel, but the antenna was broken. The lifeboats were missing. Bloodstains were smeared across the deck. And strangest of all, the ship's cargo, including medical supplies and food, was untouched. What could have happened? And why would the passengers abandon a ship that was still afloat? Investigators were baffled. The ship's engines were dead, and one of the pipes had been wrapped with a towel, possibly in a desperate attempt to stop a leak. But there was no evidence of a catastrophic event. The logbook was missing, along with navigational equipment, adding another layer of mystery. Some believed the ship had been attacked by pirates. Perhaps the crew and passengers were taken hostage or thrown overboard. But why leave behind valuable cargo? Others speculated that a violent mutiny had broken out, forcing the passengers to flee in the lifeboats. But then, where did they go? If they had survived, someone would have turned up. Yet not a single body was ever found. And then, there's the supernatural theory. Some believe the Joy-Ida sailed into the Bermuda Triangle's Pacific counterpart, a so-called Devil's Sea, where ships and planes disappear without a trace. Could something beyond human understanding have taken the passengers? Despite extensive searches, no trace of the 25 passengers and crew was ever found. It was as if they had been erased from existence. The MV Joy-Ida, however, refused to go down with its secrets. The ship was eventually towed back and repurposed, continuing to sail, cursed by its ghostly reputation, until it was finally scrapped years later. To this day, the vanishing of the MV Joyita remains one of the most baffling maritime mysteries in history. No wreckage of lifeboats, no human remains, no clear answers. Just an empty vessel, drifting on the waves, whispering its secrets to the sea. What do you think happened to the MV Joyita's crew? Was it a tragic accident, a sinister plot, or something beyond human understanding? Let us know in the comments. The disappearance of the Sodder children. It was supposed to be a night of celebration. The Sodders, George, Jenny, and their 10 children were settling in for Christmas. 5 of the children had asked to stay up late, playing with their new toys. Their mother, Jenny, agreed and went to bed. That was the last time she would ever see them. Around 1 a.m., the Sodder home erupted in flames. Jenny and George managed to escape along with 4 of their children. But the other 5, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny Jr., and Betty, were trapped upstairs. Frantic efforts to save them were met with eerie obstacles. The phone line was dead, the ladder that was always by the house was missing, and George's trucks, which he planned to use to climb into the burning home, mysteriously wouldn't start. Within 45 minutes, the house was reduced to ashes. The fire department arrived hours later, and their investigation was shockingly brief. The official explanation? Faulty wiring. Authorities declared the 5 children dead due to the fire, but something didn't add up. For one, no human remains were found in the rubble. Experts later confirmed that even if a fire was hot enough to destroy a house, it would never completely incinerate bones. Why, then, was there no trace of the children? Adding to the mystery, the Sodders had working electricity throughout the fire, contradicting the claim of faulty wiring. Jenny began experimenting with bones, burning them in a stove to see if they would disintegrate. They never did. The more the Sodders investigated, the more questions arose. Strange occurrences leading up to the fire began to resurface. A few months before the incident, an insurance salesman threatened George, warning that his house would be burned down and his children destroyed because of his outspoken criticism of Mussolini and the Italian fascist regime. Was this a coincidence? On the night of the fire, a neighbor saw a man stealing a block-and-tackle tool from the Sodder property. Another person reported seeing someone throwing an object onto the roof, possibly a firebomb. But the most disturbing clue? In the days after the fire, witnesses reported sightings of the Sodder children. A woman claimed to have seen them in a passing car. A waitress in a Charleston diner said she had served breakfast to a group of children who matched their descriptions, accompanied by 2 strange men. For decades, the Sodders searched tirelessly for their missing children. They put up a massive billboard offering a reward for information. The case seemed cold until 1967, when a mysterious envelope arrived at their home. Inside was a photograph of a young man with a cryptic note on the back. Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. Ill boys. A 90132 or 35. The man in the photo resembled what Louis might have looked like as an adult. The Sodders were shaken, but despite hiring a private investigator, they never uncovered the sender's identity. It was the last major lead before the case faded into history. George Sodder died in 1969 and Jenny in 1989. Until her death, she never stopped believing her children had been taken. The billboard remained up for decades, pleading for answers. But no one ever came forward with definitive proof of what really happened. Were the Sodder children kidnapped? Did someone orchestrate the fire to cover up a crime? Or was this just a tragic accident compounded by eerie coincidences? We may never know the truth, But one thing is certain. The disappearance of the Sodder children remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in American history. What do you think happened to the Sodder children? Were they abducted, or did they perish in the fire? Let us know in the comments. And that brings us to the end of our list. These cases remain unsolved, leaving behind more questions than answers. Were they the result of foul play, supernatural forces, or something even more sinister? What do you think really happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you love diving into the world of mysteries and unsolved cases, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep questioning everything.